What's this? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome to The Morning After, featuring me, your host, Alex Ringler, and our lovely panelists. Let's go around and say who you are, where you're calling in from, and what's the last thing you do before going to bed. Russ White, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Russ White. I'm calling in from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm the co-publisher of Q-Life Media. And the last thing I do before I go to bed is I watch TV. I fall asleep.
All right. Nothing scandalous now. We don't need to know any of that, but okay. Michael Barbieri.
Hi, I'm Michael Barbieri. I am the dining and entertainment writer for Q-Life Media. And I'm calling in from New York City,
Yay,
where I have a ton of fans.
Oh.
And the last thing I do before going to bed is I strap my CPAP mask onto my face.
I thought you were going a whole different direction there. When I
Nope.
strap on. I just places.
Oh, wait,
anyway.
can I change my answer?
Garrett Patiani.
Hello, everyone. My name is Garrett, calling in from Las Vegas. I'm also co-owner of Q-Life Media. And the last thing I do before I go to bed, I always check to see what's trending on Facebook, just to see like what's going on in the world. And I do.
What was trending last night?
Huh?
What was trending last night?
Donald Trump is always at the top of that list doing something crazy. So he's usually up like
No.
number 2. You know?
Well, see, that's why I tell people, like, don't post anything saying Trump, because then it's like, then he's trending. So, anyway. And the grace to my will, Nigel Phelps. Please introduce.
Hi, I'm Nija. I'm calling in from Connecticut, and the last thing I do is also check Facebook, but not what's trending, just what's on my news feed, my friend group. That's kind of boring, and I actually wish that I didn't do that right before I go to bed. But, also, I want to say what I'm going to be for Halloween, because last week you guys got to do that. I'm going to be Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, Batman animated series era, and I love that Chris wants to be Robin. I was like, oh.
Oh, that's fun. I'm vacillating between Halloween costumes right now. The one I ordered is very basic, and it came, and it's like 2 sizes too big, so I'm like, oh, what else can I freaking do? Anyway, we'll see. I'm sure pictures will be posted. Anyway, to the topic at hand, Will and Grace, episode 5. And it was, I kind of like how the title was a nod to How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, which Megan Mullally was in on the Broadway, by the way. And okay, we've got another recurring character coming back. We got Beverly Leslie coming back.
Well, Alex Ringler, it's a live and breathe.
Why, Russ White, you're almost as sweet as a normal-sized person. I love their interactions. I love that we got to kind of see behind the veil once he was on the morphine. And did anyone else know this? I was watching with a friend last night. There have been so many online like comparisons between him and Jeff Sessions, and they already like and of course they explicitly say it, like, right. You look at them side by side. I don't know, Russ, if you can like put in a side by side comparison picture here, but it's kind of eerie, the Beverly Leslie Jeff Sessions thing.
Oh.
I thought that was hilarious.
Right when Jeff Sessions came onto the scene, there were a lot of people saying that Leslie Jordan should get that part for SNL.
Oh, SNL, yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, but then so my friend showed me the comparisons, and I was like, yeah, pretty much. Okay, so we got this week. I was a little underwhelmed, and I will tell you why. Because the storylines that we were following in both Will and Grace's storylines, we had already seen on the series before. We saw Grace pimping out Will to one of her clients to get a job. She did that in, like, I want to say the first couple of seasons to a guy who was apparently like a dick and not someone Will was interested in. But, and then we get Will unsatisfied with his job and wanting to leave it. And we already had that when he left his corporate job to go work for something else. I was like, have we thought of nothing else in the last 11 years? Have these characters not grown in the last 11 years? Or are we picking it up just exactly where we left off and rehashing old storylines? What did everybody think of that? Nija, what do you think?
I agree that it was something they'd already done, and that's not exciting. But for me, I love the character who was playing her client, Max, that actor. And
He's
also,
so handsome. I love him.
he's super handsome and he's always entertaining. And I guess I just figured not every episode's going to be a 10, and the last 4 have been. So, I think that, soon, hopefully, we'll be getting to have Will's ex back, and that'll like bump it back up, It was, even though it was very focused on Will and Grace, it didn't feel as much as a Will and Grace episode, because the stuff about them, like you said, we've already seen before. So I just didn't even focus on it that much.
Yeah. So, Garrett, what do you think?
Well, I think that it's going to be one of those. They had to. It obviously like alluded at the end that they're going to be working together, and so they had to have something that like put them in the same thing. And just like my own Grace, we all have a Grace. It always comes back to you and your best friend. There's like relationships that come and go, work comes and goes, but like you and your best friend are always going to be. And I honestly feel like I'll always work with my best friends. I have a couple of friends, specifically my Grace Carey. We're always going to be working in the same field, and I would love to work with her. So I hope one day it works out that way.
Has your friend Carrie ever been Carrie for Halloween?
No.
Has she ever tried to pimp you to a client?
Yes.
I was kidding.
That's great. Okay, so what I did like that they brought up a little bit was the casual sex debate between with gay men, when she's like, how gay guys can just have sex and it's not a big deal. I agree with that, and I'm like, that's kind of cool sometimes, but I think we're in an era where women can do that and straight men can do that, and it's like, we live in a Sex and the City kind of world now.
Grindr, Tinder world.
Grindr, Tinder world. Oof, those apps. Anyway, and I feel like everyone indulges every once in a while. But what do we think about the stigma of gay men just being, we just have sex and we're cool with that and that's all we are? Do you think it's a negative thing? Do you think it's like an empowering thing? What do you think, Russ?
Yeah, Russ.
Yeah, Russ.
Huh.
I was thinking about this week, in that how much my life revolves around apps. I can have anything delivered to my door, including.
I have Chinese food coming right now. I might have to leave.
Including food.
Including Fork. What's that burger place? Four Guys? No, Five Guys. Including Five Guys.
5 guys over.
I also have 5 guys coming too.
So yeah, I'm disappointed in the show this week because of how close it carried to some of the headlines. It was kind of blatantly obvious that we had a Weinstein episode.
Yeah.
I thought that was too gratuitous. It's not enduring. It's not going to hold up well in reruns. And it was unnecessary. It demeans Will to a point of he still can't get the guy.
Yeah, that's true. And that's another thing that I've been having trouble with this whole season, is that like we're still seeing a kind of, I know that he and Andrew made out in the last episode, and he's had dates, and he kissed Ben Platt and stuff like that, but we're still seeing kind of like a non-sexualized Will. And maybe that's just him. Maybe I just have to accept that, he's not that casual sex guy. He's not that, so maybe that's just Will. But my problem is like, he's a handsome lawyer in New York City. I feel like he'd at least have like some sort of like boyfriend or sex situation. But as we saw this week, he's neurotic, and he poured out a bottle of wine into a glass, and it was like, okay, so maybe you're just that guy that's like, I thought I wanted to have sex with you, but maybe I don't.
And it's like, here's kind of like what he said to Grace when she's like, isn't it great how gay guys can just have sex? He's like, well, that's stereotypical.
Yeah, he said that.
Like,
exactly.
that's not Will, and it's never really been him. And part of that reason obviously was because they just were like, oh, that's too gay for the network. But I really feel like part of why Jack very much is that guy is because Will isn't, and they wanted to show there's different kinds of gays, just like there's different kinds of straights and everything in between, and that's okay. It's all okay.
And here's
Yeah,
another
like-
thing. Here's
Yeah.
another thing, is that misery and unhappiness always makes better comedy.
True.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the thing is, if Will found a guy and fell deeply in love and they were lived happily ever after, there would be no conflict. It wouldn't be the same show. And it would end up getting a little dull.
I think you can do it, but I think you have to be a really good writer, and there's not that many people that are, because it can be done, but because it's definitely not happily ever after. I'm married, I'll tell you that. It's great, and you're married, you know that. It's great, but there's definitely still conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. It's like that can get a little like boring if we have him be happy, like, because that was the final episode, is he had a kid of the previous series. It was he had his husband and his child, and it's like, okay, because we're wrapping up the series and we want to give him a happy ending. But it's getting a little boring for me to have him also be just the guy who is always either making mistakes of the heart or just kind of pathetic in a way. So anyway, that's my point. Anyway, speaking of Jack, his storyline was kind of cute. It wasn't my favorite. I was like, all right, it was fine. My only thing that that really stood out to me was the whole Mexican standoff PC business.
Yes.
I don't know. I thought that was hilarious. It's like, wait, are we allowed to say that? Is that okay? We're having a Latino American misunderstanding. Boom. I was like, all right, thank you for
I
doing
love that.
Like,
I love that.
you can't use certain colloquialisms anymore, or you can, but you second guess yourself these days, being like, am I allowed to say that? Like, who knows? It's the same way. It's like they would say, like we discussed possibly not saying fag hag on this show. It's like, are we allowed to say that? I don't know if we are. So what did we think about Jack's storyline, Garrett?
I think it's cool to show that you have two people from different worlds, like becoming friends in a funny way and doing something good for somebody else. Like, I find that as minorities, we all need to stick together, because when we all are on each other's side and we know that we've all been victims of the same thing from the same people, it's important that we stick together, because that's the only way we're going to win against the bullshit.
Absolutely.
So I hope that it develops into like more of a deepened relationship between a gay guy, a black guy. Like, I think it's awesome, and I love that relationship being exposed.
And I like how they brought up that it was a hate crime to hit either of them.
Yeah.
We're equal minorities. Yes, we are.
I like that they brought Tasha back too. I love her.
Me too.
She's cute.
To add to that, I think it's important that gay men, like, stand up for the Black Lives Matter movements and the police brutality. And I like, I hope that all the other minority groups are also sticking up for gay rights. It's important that we really are vocal about it and really living that out loud. I'm always constantly talking about it on social media and stuff like that. So I hope that that's what our world does for each other in a bigger way.
Absolutely. It's important to like recognize that everyone is going through their own struggle, and while it might not be your particular struggle, you're going through something too, and you can identify with that and you can support them as well. So anything else to add? Like, this wasn't my favorite episode, so didn't.
I loved they really threw in a lot of pop culture references, both old and new.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I brought these along. The Chipmunks.
Oh yes.
They talk about Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. The Chipmunks.
Are we going to see a Simon? I hope we see a Simon. That would be amazing.
and then calling Leslie Jordan Dixie Dinklage. So referring to Peter Dinklage on Game of Thrones.
Right.
And the one that absolutely killed me, and I don't know if anyone else is going to get this, but I loved the reference to the movie Freaks when they were all around the table.
Oh no, I got that. Yeah.
Accepting Will as their partner, going, one of us. All they didn't, they just didn't go gooble gobble, one of us.
They actually,
I loved that.
They referenced that movie in South Park as well. So when they started doing that, I was like, you're doing that movie. I enjoyed it. But honestly, if you were sitting around that table, would you want to be part of that group? I wouldn't. They all look so sad.
It really depends on how many hours they required me, because he'd be a senior partner, so seems like a lot of hours, but I don't know. I think I'd be like, I'm going to do it for a few years, make that money, and then get out. But that's me.
Or as a senior partner, do you just like kind of delegate all your work to the underlings? Like, because I'd be down for that.
Right?
Okay. Well, okay. So Will and Grace, episode 5. Not my favorite, but I'm still a fan of the show. And we're gonna keep reviewing. Anyone have anything to plug aside from, hey, Halloween's this week? So, Nija, tell us about your campaign real quick.
I was just gonna say, I'm running for office, Board of Aldermen.
Woo!
There I am right there.
There she is.
It's pretty awesome. It's both the best and the worst. Canvassing is a lot of walking, so that's good and bad. But meeting people and talking to them is great. And then people are like, oh, what are you going to do next? State rep, state senator, president? And I'm like, no, I want to have a baby and live in my house and enjoy that.
You can't do both. Don't let them limit your options.
No, I don't want to be taken away I don't think people really understand when politicians at any level, but especially at the higher levels, have a family. I'm like, so you have multiple people who work for you to make sure your family is still running, right? Because I don't know how you do it otherwise. And I wouldn't really want to. Like, I want to be the kind of parent that can go to like all of the school plays and, everything like that. And I have 2 working parents and they couldn't even really do it all the time. So imagine if your parent had to go to DC half the week. Like, no thanks.
Well, maybe that's what Will was worried about with his being, senior partner there. He's like, I don't have room for anything else. I just have to be this. So
that's true. Well, I was going to ask you, why do you think he comes off as pathetic? Because he can never get the guy?
Not even that. It's just he seems to be repeating like the same thing over and over and over and over and not growing. So maybe pathetic was the wrong word. It was more like we're not seeing any growth out of Will. We haven't, I think, in the entire series almost. So that's
I think that he's grown, but also we all often repeat the same mistakes. So
I agree, but it's, if everyone else is given like a little room to like either have fun or grow, I don't see why one of the title characters shouldn't be. Unless he's just Will the straight man, and we have to have a straight man in the show. He's the straight gay man. Gay straight man.
He's the straight gay man.
Okay, but I'm still a fan of the show. I'm still gonna keep watching because I love these kids. And all right, I think that's it. I love you guys. Thanks for watching Will and Grace. Watching the morning
Any
after.
other plugging?
What's that?
Any other plugging?
Plugging? No. That's when the 5 guys get here with my Chinese food.
Oh, right.
Oh, all right. Oh, all right. Good night, everybody. Love you. Bye, poodles.
Bye, poodles.